Actually, let me make sure. Yeah, my microphone's on. Is your microphone on?
Now we're live.
Now we're live. Welcome, everybody.
That's a good way to start a new chapter.
Yes, we are now Palette Knives Out.
Welcome to the
podcast,
Palette
Artcast.
Knives Out
Palette Knives
Artcast.
Out, and you came up with the name Artcast.
I did. You came up with the Palette Knives Out.
I did. And you know what? I've been using my palette knife. I gotta get it on the camera. I've been using my palette knife a lot at home. And it was just, I threw that out for fun. We were messaging on Facebook, and Paul was like, I really like that. Like an hour later.
It's
and I was
so
like,
funny.
I really like it too. And it just sort of came together. And
it literally, so we've been sitting on that rebrand of the Trillium Mist thing since like what, December or January?
Yeah, we were gonna call it Trillium Mist Art,
and then
which
we were
both
like,
but it sounds like a gallery name.
Yeah, we're gonna put that in our back pocket and keep that for our gallery when we open a gallery. But I literally woke up and I was like, you know what, we should just like call it like treat it like it's just a YouTube channel, and
that's what we are.
And so like literally it took us about 3 hours and we figured it out. Jenny came up with the name, I added to the name, and we came up with a logo, and it's like, okay, let's go.
So those of you just tuning in, we were formerly, for years, since 2019, we were Gogh Art Crate, and we used to do a subscription box. It got where it was doing really well during COVID, and then after COVID, everybody wanted to do live events, which I totally understand. So the subscription box really died off, and we were like, we can't keep calling our company Gogh when we don't have a box. So
yeah.
So tonight, let's go ahead and zoom in.
Check it out, you guys. We got a brand new.
And he's wearing my glasses. So this is Grogu, as requested by Kim. Hello, Kim and Mark and Marlene. Good to see you on here. Welcome, Stephanie Stanley. Thank you for joining our channel. Yes, so Grogu was the requested painting this year, which is great because we haven't done a Yoda figure yet. And last year, let's say the last couple of years, we've done landscapes. Paul did both of them. We did the Endor Twilight, and then you did a red. You did like a red sunset with the
Rebel Sunrise or Rebel Sunset or something like that.
So this year we have a character. The last character we did, I actually found right before we went live tonight, and it was. You guys remember this one? That was, I think, 2022 or 2021. Must have been 2021.
Yeah. And
this was Paul's version, which I kept. I sold mine at our art sale and kept his because I thought I loved it. It just really looks like Wicket.
We can never get rid of that one.
Yeah.
That's a lifer.
So let's talk about what we're using tonight. Those of you who have been a part of Gogh for a long time, you've been using the De La Rowney Process art colors, which are 6 different colors: black and white, cyan, magenta, process yellow, and yellow ochre. And that's what we're doing tonight. I thought I'd keep it simple for you guys who still have a lot of paint left over.
What happened to your yellow ochre?
I stirred it with the palette knife because the gel had kind of separated. In fact, yours is. So you guys might have this occasionally too. Like, I don't know if you guys remember last time Paul's looked like Pac-Man that was spitting out gel. But yeah, acrylic paint sometimes does that. And a lot of times I'll forget to shake the bottle before putting it on the palette. And so yeah, the palette knife just worked for that. Let's see. So we are going to paint the canvas black to start. Let's go ahead and do that real quick.
We're going to paint it black.
So go ahead and take your biggest brush. You can use any assortment of brushes. This is a 3/4 inch brush. A 1 inch one would actually probably be more ideal, but I like to wet the brush down first and then blot it dry on my paper towel. And I'm going to start right where Grogu is so that can dry. What are you doing there? Brushing your canvas with water?
I'm just doing what I want to do.
Oh yeah, you painted Wicket too. Gave it to your nephew. Oh, fun. Well, hopefully this one, I don't know if you're keeping it or giving it away. I suppose it just depends on how it all turns out. I will say he's pretty easy to paint. I wasn't 100% sure. I had seen some really simple cartoony ones, and I thought, well, that would be really easy to do, but I wanted to make it be a little more painterly, so I sort of went halfway. He's slightly cartoony and has some more realistic qualities, like the fuzz on top of the hair, and those big eyes are so cute.
They have a new series coming out on Disney Plus early summer, May, June.
Oh, are you marketing for Disney now?
I am.
How
Well,
about they market for us?
it is Star Wars themed night, so it's okay.
All right. All right. Let me move these aside because I keep brushing
Let's
my
see when that
handles.
starts. Oh, it starts June 4th, and I think that one looks really super cool, by the way.
What's it called?
The Acolyte.
Ah.
It's one of the, I think it's really intriguing.
Any idea who's in it?
It's a TV series, so I don't.
Ah.
I can look.
So normally we do actually do this class on May the 4th. I'm going to stir a little water into my paint just because I'm using the Daler paint, which is thicker than the one we've been using in the past, which is great for a lot of things.
Wait,
but for
hold on,
painting the
I'm going to
background,
read
I
the
want it
description.
a little thinner.
A former Padawan reunites with her Jedi Master to investigate a series of crimes, but discovers the forces they confront are more sinister than they ever anticipated.
Okay.
Who's
in it? Anyone we know?
Well, you know, Star Wars is kind of big on
Casting lesser knowns. I love that actually.
Yeah. Daphne Keene,
Oh, I don't know that
Amanda
name, but
Stenberg,
I sure will know all these names.
Manny Jacinto, Rebecca Henderson, Carrie Ann Moss,
I know that name. That's the Matrix actress.
Oh, yeah. Lee Jung Jae, Charlie Bennett, and Abigail Thorne. Those are the. Anyway, you guys check out the trailer on YouTube. I guess we're going into we're actually YouTubers now.
Yeah, like, subscribe, all that fun stuff. That's what we always forget to say that.
Yeah.
And every YouTube channel I watch, that's what they say. I'm like, oh, I need to remember that next time. Like, subscribe. Fun fact, Yoda is the Sanskrit word for warrior. Wow, Daniel's in the house with the Star Wars facts, which is good because I didn't do a trivia sheet this year. I think we've already answered all the trivia questions in all the years.
I don't think I don't even think we've scratched the surface.
Okay, well, we'll let Daniel give us some random factoids. Funner fact, Grogu is German for make us some money. Well, I think Grogu definitely did that for the Star Wars franchise.
It's all about the money, money, money.
So what I'm doing right here is I'm just spreading the paint out because I don't want any thick spots. I want everything to dry pretty evenly, only so that we can fit this in the time frame we're doing.
What is our time frame? Do we have one?
It's probably our normal, somewhere between an hour and a half and 2 hours.
Gotcha.
Just depends on how detailed we get and how long it takes to mix color. You like my Sammy chair to wear stars today? I don't have any Star Wars t-shirts. Paul has a lot of them.
No,
he's wearing a
not
Star
really.
Wars. Well,
I have
compared to what I have.
I have like 2 left.
Do you?
Well, they wear out.
So you've got the
I am wearing my.
Mandalorian. Or
I've
what's
got
that character's name?
It's the Mythosaur.
The Mythosaur sweatshirt.
Yeah.
And under that is the Mos Eisley
Cantina.
pub. Cantina, yeah. From the OG Star Wars New Hope.
Which is playing at the Newburgh Drive-In, just about a half a mile from us tomorrow night.
Yeah, and the Newburgh Drive-In is one of the only drive-ins left in the entire United States.
I think it's the only one left west of the Mississippi.
How is that? We have the only Blockbuster in Oregon.
Yeah.
And the only...
Well, it's because we live in the sticks.
No, the Blockbuster's in Bend. That's 3 hours away from here.
No, but I'm just saying, like, a lot of times people on the East Coast think that Oregon's like way out in the middle of nowhere, and we still ride covered wagons to school and stuff.
Yeah, remember the Oregon? What was the Oregon
Trail.
game? Okay, so this is what we're going to be aiming for. This is where we've started.
Hopefully we have better aim than the stormtroopers.
Hopefully we have better aim than the stormtroopers. That's a good one. So what we want to do, I'm not setting this down because I don't want it to stick on there. What we want to aim for next is the sort of avocado green that Grogu is known for. And I'll show you how to mix that. So take a good look at it. if you want to, you can pull up a picture of Grogu. I definitely referenced a lot of photos and paintings when I made this one. And there were some really good, I mostly referenced a photograph. And there were some really, really good ones that showed a lot of like, he has a lot of pinkish, it's a real muted pink around the eyes and cheeks and inner ear. We'll worry about that later. So let's take your biggest brush, make sure you've got it cleaned off. I actually took notes when I mixed the color because I'm like, I want to remember this exact mix, not the exact, oh, it looks like I spit on my canvas. I think something
did.
happened. So, yeah, I want to make the color now. I'm going to start with white. Just we want to make quite a bit. So scrape off a good chunk of white, a good glob. And let's mix in some of this yellow ochre. You can also use raw sienna if that's the paint color you've got. And you can use a palette knife if you want.
Get your palette knife out.
Oh, my palette knife still had, oh no, I scraped a little black out of my brush. That's actually okay. Having a little tint to this color would be good. And then let's go ahead and put in a little bit of cyan. Just a little at first because this can be really overwhelming. So it's going to start turning sort of greenish because of the yellow ochre.
So Kim wants to know, how was Greta's birthday?
Oh, it was good. It was good. I'll get this color mixed and I'll talk a little bit about what we did for our daughter's 18th birthday. Oh, we throw in a little yellow too. You can use a brush or a palette knife. Like I said, I've been at home working on some commissions, pet paintings, and I've been using my palette knife a lot just to get back into it. I used it all the time when I used to paint with oils, but with acrylics, I never do.
Well,
okay.
the acrylics we used to use in the studio were too thin to really use with a palette knife.
Yeah. So this is pretty close. This is pretty close to what I did. I think it's got a little more cyan in it. So scrape off a little of that. So I said avocado green, somewhere thereabouts. This is getting a little on the blue side, but I think it would still be okay. But if that happens too, you can always put a little more yellow in, or even some yellow ochre, maybe both. And this is good that I'm making quite a lot because you can see it takes some steps.
This is the way.
This is the way.
This is the Jenny way of mixing paint.
It takes some steps to get here, and we do use it throughout.
Oh, Star Wars trivia from Daniel.
Nice. All right. Let me clean up my canvas. Oh, look, I've got stars already.
What planet is Obi-Wan from? That's a great question. I don't know.
Ooh. I don't know either. Okay, so I'm going to wash the big brush off and get myself back in place here.
Stew John.
Wow, interesting.
You know, stew sounds really good right now, actually. John?
Bring us some stew.
Bring me some stew, John. There's no John here.
Okay. So I can see this is drying. It's a little shiny, but it is getting there, and it's okay right now to have it be sort of sticky and a little bit wet. But let me show you where we're going to start. This is funny. So I took photos as I was working through this painting just for a reference so that I knew what to go back to and could remember the steps that I did to achieve. And I have to show you guys, I started with him up higher in the photo. And I was like, I hated the angle. He looked really stupid. And so I just waited for it to dry and I repainted him down here and then moved on to the next part. So I just thought that was really funny. I thought when I did it, I'm like, I'm going to show them this because sometimes that's just the way it goes. Just going to wash my big brush off.
How long was Han Solo frozen in carbonite? Oh, wasn't it like 9 months or something like that? 6 months? 4 years.
Using my number 8 brush. Go ahead
Oh,
and dip it
till
in
the
the
next movie.
water and blot it dry on the towel.
Not going to happen.
And let's make some marker points. Let's have a look at our original because I do like to
Approximately 1 year,
reference
okay.
that a lot. So I lined up the top of his head with about the middle of the canvas. I say about because it's never going to be exact unless you use a ruler, and you don't need to do that. And then from the bottom, what would you say this is, Paul? It's 6, 7 inches?
No.
What do you think?
5.
No, that's not. It's got to be 6 inches.
That's 5.
6 inches. We're going with 6 inches. So this would be the center of the canvas, right about here.
This conversation could go so many different directions.
And let's drop down about 1/2 inch to 1 inch. So let's do this. Dip your brush in your green.
Thank you for thinking that was 7 inches.
You're being gross. Okay, let's find the middle, right about here.
Well, keep in mind, this canvas is only 11 inches in that
Drop
direction.
down about 1/2 inch, so right about there. I think that's a good spot for the top of his head. And we're literally going to make just a half moon shape. It's pretty wide, so let's go out this way. And let's go out this way. And we've got plenty of time to refine this. You can see it's mixing with my black paint, totally fine.
Wasn't it like C-3PO like fluent in like 19,000 different languages or something like that?
Probably. I thought it was 6,000 languages. Okay, the ears are very simple. And they're just right here where the head starts curving downward. And it's totally fine if they go...
6 million.
Oh my gosh. Okay, I knew it had a 6 in it. I just try to make him somewhat even. No, he's like fun how Jim Henson, isn't Jim Henson the one who did the puppets? And they make their ears kind of
Well, he's the one that actually did the original Yoda. So.
Yeah, independently from each other. And then this is going to come back
voiced
down like
by.
this.
All right, Jenny, who voiced the original Yoda?
Oh gosh.
Same guy who did Miss Piggy.
This kind of looks like a pig. Was it Jim Henson?
No.
Who voiced Miss Piggy? I always thought it was Jim Henson.
Frank Oz.
Oh, that's right. I did know that. I just had a case of the dumb. Okay, so luckily he's got this wrap around that he can tuck his cute little chin into. And I have it a little bit higher on one side, so we have a little of the mouth showing here. So just under the ear, I want you to come across.
Grogu always kind of looks like he's smelling his own fart.
If you need to like make a marker for the middle, you can do that. I'm gonna go just past the middle and down. He looks like he's what?
Smelling his own fart.
You weirdo.
Waka waka waka.
And then right here, I'm just going to do like a little wavy line to represent the bulk. It's kind of like we're painting a snowman scarf. We've done plenty of those over the years. And then, like I said, this side goes down a little bit lower, so you can even bring the face down just a little lower. And come in like so, but you can have that side come up like this. You can even show part of the shoulder later, like you can sketch it in now, like if you wanted to. Depends on how much room you have. Look, it looks like he has a little face because whatever ended up on the canvas, I don't know what it was. I don't know if it was came out of my mouth or my drinking glass. That's really funny. Okay, so let's do this now. We're gonna do the inner ear. So let's do it, drop down from here about 1 inch, and then you're gonna come up like this. Easy enough on both sides. What are you doing? You're like turbo painting.
I'm just painting, yo.
And then down here, you can make this a little thicker. And totally fine that the greens are mixing with the black. Don't worry about it.
Yeah, to my knowledge, they are not related.
I like Grogu's little hands. I think they're so cute. So you can round this part out a little bit because his head is actually kind of mushroom shaped. Like, it's shaped like we got the round top and then the cheeks kind of come down like this. Oops, that's not very good. So see how it's sort of mushroom shaped? So if you got room, you can make that sort of bump out even a little over here if you want. Very cute. So we're going to paint eyes. Oh, according to the Emperor, what was Week's Lukeness? What was Week's Lukeness?
His devotion
Yeah,
to his friends.
That's right. That's right.
Or his belief in his friends. I can't remember which. Yaddle was the only female Yoda species in the movies, and she was a member of the Jedi Council in The Phantom Menace.
Ugh. I'm gonna paint over these white dots in my center mark.
There is actually some fairly extensive lore about whatever the. You know, the funny thing is they don't have a species name.
Oh, interesting. Okay, we're going to paint the big eyes now. Now that is like his showpiece. They take up like half of his face. It's all about the eyes, and that's what makes him so cute. And they're kind of like rounded almond shapes, like almost like shaped like a lemon. And we'll draw the little nose on, and then we'll put the eyes on. So let's do it. Pick one of your small brushes, whichever you feel the most comfortable drawing with. It might be this little round one. I'm going to try that out. I am going to mix a little water with a small amount of my green paint. Just pull some aside with a little water. The nose is kept really simple. So let's find the middle of the face, drop down. You want to leave about close to an inch between here and here. And just paint a little button nose.
Little button nose.
Yeah, just like a little round nose.
Button Willow McButton Willow.
I mean, he has like an actual nose with nostrils, and you can do all that too. I sort of had them hinted on here, there and there. But we'll get to that later. And now his inner corner of each eye is just maybe, it's less than a ½ inch away. So just bump over maybe a 1/4 inch, 3/8 of an inch on each side. Look at that. That's so cute. Let's just make him like that.
Fear leads to anger. Anger leads to hate.
And then just a big rainbow shape.
Hate leads to suffering.
Or half moon shape. So you want it to really take up this space. And you might have one side of your face that's a little bit bigger than the other, but just work with it. Try to get them the same height. You can do the old artist thing where you draw a dotted line across if you feel like that will help, but I'm just going to sketch them in. And then the bottom is not quite as big of a dip as that is high. So you see how this is really arched. This is more of a bow.
And Luke Duke. It's a good old boys. We should do a Dukes of Hazzard night.
Okay, so he's starting to look a little more Grogu-like. And then he has these fantastic eyelids. So I'm just going to mimic this shape about a ½ inch above the eyes. ½ inch, 3/8 inch to a ½ inch.
Yeah, we would.
You can even make this one sort of flick out a little outside corner. And we have so much more to add. But for now, where it's at. Got 2 palette knives and a microphone.
It's true. Except for we don't have 2 palette knives.
Yeah, it's true. Okay, so what I want to do now.
You know what? Somebody needs to make the General Lee, but take the the Confederate flag off and put the Star Wars Rebel logo on top, so it could still be the Rebel logo.
Look at it.
And with it being orange, it's the same color as the flight suits for the Rebels.
And one of the characters' name is Luke.
And one of the characters' name is Luke.
Okay, so Yoda's head is not quite, or Grogu, sorry. I apologize if I keep referring to him as Yoda. I've been around since the 1970s. I grew up with Yoda. Grogu is new. New business for me. So the top of Grogu's head is not quite as round as we have it. It actually is kind of almost a rounded off square on either side. So I'm going to adjust that really quick, starting from the middle. It even slightly indents in the middle. And so I'm just going to round down like this. You could leave it round, but I'm just trying to make it a little more accurate. And if you need to use black paint to touch up anything that shouldn't be there, you can do that. Let's go ahead and, got a lot of black mixed in there. Prominent character with the hashtag in their name in the sequels. That is you.
Wait, hold on, what?
Here.
I'm seeing it.
I'm going to fill in the top of the ears, and you guys can too. I'm just using my number 8 brush. And the black paint here is pretty dry by now, so it's not mixing so much like it was before. And we do some highlights and other things, so don't worry about getting a totally heavy coat of paint here. You can even make this curve up a little more interestingly. So what I did is I just came down a little bit and curved up that way. Numbers, not hashtag. Don't you know, Daniel? Now that means hashtag. It doesn't mean pound anymore or numbers. It's hashtag.
We should have done him when he's got the assassin droid that he pilots, and he's like hits the button. He's like, no, 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 no.
Paul had some great ideas for this. I texted him when I had it complete, but nothing above here. And I was like, what should I put up above? Because I automatically thought stars. And then I thought, is there anything interesting? Like Paul maybe would have some cool idea. And you said the little silver ball, like it's like a shifter knob or something.
Yeah, the shifter knob
that he gets from Mando.
That he steals from Mando.
And I was like, you know, if I had made his eyes looking at something where it looked like he was focusing on something outside of straight ahead, that would have worked. But instead, we just did stars. And I thought, you know, you could do like a little glass dome looking thing if you wanted to. That would be pretty fun. Okay, the wrinkles. The wrinkles. I started with it pretty easy. Just between the two eyes, he has these two pronounced, it's almost like it makes a heart.
Wait, 2187, isn't that like the number that they use, like the THX 2187 also? I mean, there's a one number that he uses in every movie.
Don't ask me such things.
No, I'm conversing. Yeah. So it's 2187, and he and Steven Spielberg use it all the time.
Oh, it's like from
it was like their classroom in college or something.
Isn't it in some of the DreamWorks movies too, like
Yeah,
the
I think
Monsters
so.
Inc.?
Yeah.
Does that have anything to do with them though?
No.
Okay.
I don't think so.
I'm thinking of something different then.
Well, it might, just because it's. Oh yeah, because he started the Pixar.
Yeah, it's like 2347. Yeah, well, whatever you're talking
2187.
about. Okay, so I'm just gonna paint this eyelid. Oops. He's gonna look real creepy for a little bit, just because the eyes are solid black, and the wrinkles I leave black for a while.
I could be just talking out my.
You usually are doing that.
No.
Fill in the nose.
1138.
Oh, you were totally off.
I was wrong. It happens. Like, and as
Every
I
once
get
in a while,
older, it's
Paul's
okay.
wrong.
It's okay. There's nothing wrong with being wrong.
So I filled in the nose, and then just go ahead and fill in the whole lower face down to the little scarfy thing. And I will talk about Greta's birthday. I didn't forget. So earlier in the day, Greta got the first tattoo, and wasn't sure how she was going to be able to deal with the pain. There were a lot of nerves going into it, but she did just fine. She said it was a 3 out of 10. So, and anyway, then her and I went to dim sum at a restaurant we love that's over in a town called Beaverton, where you can find lots of delicious Asian, Indian, all kinds of different ethnic food restaurants. I am leaving a little halo of black around the nose just so that I don't forget where it's at. And it will come in handy later. Go right up to the bottom of the eyes. But yeah, it was a fun day. And then at the end of the day, some of Greta's friends came over. Let's see, how many kids did we have in the house?
5, counting 6 counting Greta.
Okay. Yeah, and
My food
Greta
poisoning,
really just
my food poisoning decided to come
that's
back.
right. Paul was having stomach issues, so that ruined. Well, I shouldn't say it that way.
Wow.
That's just a bad way to say it. It changed our date night. We were gonna go out and go to a restaurant, and we were just like, probably not a good idea.
Yeah. So
Okay.
we sat upstairs and watched reels.
So I want to, above the eyes, I'm going to come in real close with this, using the thin edge of my brush. You can use a smaller brush too if you want. And he's got these like wavy wrinkles. The top of his head is very rumply. I figured that's the right description. So you can see what I just drew right here is this one. And we're going to paint green around it and leave part of it black and then come back in later with a darker green. But he's got like 1, 2, 3. It almost looks like there's a brain on the outside of the head. So it's really rumply. And I'm going to bring the eyelid up to where I just have a little skinny area of black. And you can use a smaller brush if needed, and you can join these together. Join these together, so your 2 little heart-shaped thingies. And then let's go up a little higher and paint another one of these. Just rumply, kind of dips down in the middle. Sort of similar shape to the one underneath of it. And let's paint from this line up, and we're going to leave a little skinny line of black there as well. If you end up painting over something and losing it because it gets kind of confusing, don't worry about it. We'll be able to bring everything back. I'm going to raise these up a little bit so I don't have such a thicker black line there. He looks so concerned. Oh. Where was, oh, Corellia is where Han Solo was born. So tell us your Star Wars stories. What was the first movie you saw? Because I know we've got different age groups on here. And where did you see it? Did you see it in the theater? Did you get it on VHS or Laserdisc?
I will go first.
Okay.
The first one I saw was the original 1977, and I saw it at a drive-in.
Oh, yeah. That's right. And I remember Darth Vader terrified you, is what you had said in one of our other streams.
Alderaan.
Okay, so let's do another about half an inch. Another little rumply line. Just looks like those forehead wrinkles we try to avoid when you get to be my age. And let's leave a little black line underneath of it. Again, don't worry if you accidentally paint over something. It's very easy to bring everything back. I just thought the black background would be a nice way to really make them stand out. And you might have room for one more hint of one back here.
Daniel was all of about 3 or 4 months old when the first Star Wars came out.
Actually, what was the year it came out?
1977.
Okay, so we were 2.
Yep. But it's amazing that I remember seeing it.
That is amazing. That's
Like,
weird.
I even remember the blanket that I was wrapped up in.
You were bonded with that movie. Either that or Darth Vader really traumatized you.
No, I loved Darth Vader. I mean, as I grew up.
Okay.
I don't remember if I was actually scared, if it was just like being playful. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
kids will do that when they're that young.
You were terrified. admit it.
Probably.
So it looks pretty funny right now. That's normal. And don't worry if you have a thin coat of paint in different areas. We'll be able to bring some of the paint back.
We're bringing painting back. Yeah.
Okay. And some of these wrinkles, they can end like out here when you get closer to like what would be the temples, or they can end like
The
this one.
Jedi Temple?
I have this one ending way up here. Do I have one more than I have? 1, 2, 3. 1, 2. Yeah, I do. I have one more than what's on my original. I lost count. So this one I'll make just kind of really irrelevant. And now we are going to mix up a kind of muted pink tone. That's what will go over the eyelids. What do I cover this up? And I believe I just mixed a little magenta in with that, but let me check my notes. Base green plus magenta. Okay, wash the brush. Well, I guess we don't really need to, but mine has some black on it too, so I'm gonna clean it off. And scrape off a bit of magenta. A little bit goes a long way. Let's just dab it down somewhere nearby and clean your brush again so you don't pollute your green. And then scrape off some of the green, and I needed more pink in mine. That's pretty good. That's about the color I wanted. And in his inner ear, do this sort of curve shape. So on one side it's like a backward C, on this side it's going to be more of a C shape. It's just right on the inner ear. And we'll deal with that in a bit. But for now, leave a little skinny line where it is and fill in the rest of the ear. Oh boy, Greta just texted.
What?
So Greta and I have been on a shoe hunt because she has a job interview, her very first job interview with Sephora tomorrow. And we realized with a panic that, oh my gosh, there's no nice shoes in your closet. So we went shopping for some, didn't find any. So we're like, okay, let's just go home and find some that Amazon can deliver the next day. So we found some, and she just put them on and the buckle broke off.
Oof.
Serves us right. We're getting Amazon. So you see what I mean when I say you're just going to leave that little black strip there? That's because we're going to do some shading around that in a bit. So just get a thin base coat. Doesn't have to be fancy. Doesn't have to be fully opaque or anything like that. Just get the color on there. Let's get a little on his cute little nose. There's a little green left on the nose, but I'll put that back in later. The pink, it looks like mainly just goes across the top. And then the cheeks. So I've got this one spot right here, which I know a lot of you guys who've been painting for a while know that when you paint a second coat of something on top of part that's not dry completely or mostly dry, you get where it lifts up. So that's exactly what's happening. You can see the black under there. So what I'm going to do is work in here a little bit more and just avoid that spot for a bit. Work around it. And then I'll come back with more pink. So this can just go right up to the underneath of the eye and right down to his cute little coat. You can use as much as you want. I kind of think it makes him look really cute. So now here's what to do if you get too much and he starts looking like a clown or something. You can wash your brush, dry it off really good so you don't have a lot of water on there. Pick up a little bit of your muted green skin color and just work in from the outside edges and sort of feather it in. And you can even glaze over some of the pink you put on there. This is kind of a satisfying thing that I love doing. And I just accidentally had a bunch of water on my brush. So scraped off some skin there. Sorry, buddy. So yeah, you can just sort of feather it around the edges, the muted green color, and soften everything up. So yeah, this is problematic. I hate it right now. It's driving me insane, but I'm going to ignore it for just a bit. And let me say bummer to Greta's text about the shoe. And look at my pictures again. Okay. Let's get the pink on the eyelids now. So this, you can think of it basically like eyeshadow, if that helps. I need a little more of this muted pink color. And just go right across the top of the eye, so you're not really leaving any green line. Let's have a look at the original. We do add some wrinkles around the eye and define the eyelids more, but you can see that pink in there. What are you doing over there?
I'm just painting.
You're making noise with something. It's your
I'm
brush.
doing stuff.
I hear you wrecking that brush, Paul.
I am ruining it.
And you can bring the pink right up under the eye. It looks like I did that on the original and over here, so. Heck, you can just paint them all pink. Why not?
Do it.
Let's do it. Okay, cleaning the brush off. Oops, boy, I am a wreck tonight. Oh, luckily that was dry. Just got a little overly excited, apparently. I'm going to do some shading on the inner part of the ear. So what we want to do is we want to have a pinker pink. Clean your brush off. I have been working with my number 8. You can choose a different brush. Maybe you prefer round brushes, or maybe you want to use a smaller brush. Basically, we want to take the same colors we've been using, but mix.
Control yourself, Daniel. We know how you feel about The Last Jedi, or I do.
And this is going to come, oh, that's not quite dark enough. So let's get a little more in there. And you know what? Let's put a tiny bit of cyan. So just grab the smallest bit. You can see I have just a tiny bit there. Yeah, I like that.
It's actually funny. So Daniel's bringing up The Last Jedi, which was directed and written by
Hang
Ryan.
on. Let me give this direction. We're going to come just under this ridge of the ear. And you might find that this paint's still too wet. Mine's borderline. So go ahead, Paul.
Written and directed by Ryan Johnson, who also wrote and directed Knives Out. So, here we are at a crossroads.
A little more blue in our cyan. And then this can come under here too. And we're going to use this along this little scoop. So we might mix a darker color. Mine is not really showing up how I want it to. So I'm just doing magenta and cyan to get a lavender. It turns lavender because I've got this as a base color too, mixed in there. And so it's got the lighter white that's in there is turning it more of a lavender. We'll blend that better. I've got too wet of paint. It's not doing what I want it to do. So for now, I'm just going to get the paint on as much as I can and do more later when it's dry like it should be. And you can use this. I'm a fan of multi-tones of color. So let's see how that's looking like. It's pretty good. Let me zoom in on the eyes as we add. So I like to take the darker pink and use the thin edge of my brush and just streak some of that in there. Think of it like you're painting the wrinkles, but you're really not. You're just getting some streaks of this color. You can even get some under here. Not too much. Like, we don't want it to look like he has eyeliner on, really. Or maybe you do. I don't know. Like, I feel like I went a little overboard there. I'll just glaze over that. And we definitely need to clean up the inside of the eyes because I've gotten some paint in there. But I will do that all in good time. I'm going to come along this ridge here because my outline there was missing some paint. Okay. So let's focus on my arm for a second. Got all those freckles. It just really wants to focus on those. Let's go ahead and thin out any of these black lines that are really heavy. They are wrinkles. They're not like deep caverns. And we're going to soften them up so they're not so prevalent. We're going to give Grogu some Botox. Go ahead and take
Is he
your
more like a
green-
Shar-Pei though? There's like he has wrinkles as a baby and.
I don't know. You can add more bits of green. Like, I've got a lot of thin spots where you see the black through, and it's almost kind of grayish. So you can go through and add another hit of green just to make that stand out more. I think my new one has a little bit taller forehead because I had room for all those wrinkles. Maybe he's just got his head kind of tilted down. We'll just go with that. And if this is dry enough, you can get some fresh paint across the top of the ears while we're waiting for that to dry a little more. So what's been your guys' favorite Star Wars painting that you've done with us? I know a lot of you guys have done a lot of them, maybe even all of them. We did, let's see, we did Glamour Wookiee one year. That was Chewbacca. He was very rainbow with flowing hair, and it was fantastic. I loved that one. Then we did Wicket. We did the Rebel Sunset or something like that. It was really red and orange based with the TIE fighters. And then we did my favorite, I think, is the Endor Twilight, because as a kid, my favorite Star Wars movie was definitely the one with the Ewoks, Return of the Jedi. And I hate when I hear about people are like, oh, he just made it for kids. He's sold out, blah, blah, blah. Because as a kid, I absolutely loved that movie, Return of the Jedi. Did you love that one?
Oh yeah.
Because you hear like a lot of critics about it. They're like, when they talk about Jar Jar Binks, they're like, oh yeah,
Whoa,
well the
whoa, whoa,
Ewoks
whoa,
were
whoa.
his.
Oh, I see what you're saying. I thought you were going a different direction. I was like, hold up.
You hold up. Let me zoom out so I can mix some paint. You can see how he's looking. He's starting to look like Grogu, kind of a little sickly. Grogu has a cold. I promise we're going to get out of that phase. It's mainly that darker pink we put around the eyes. Yeah, see?
What?
That's me too. I was just saying how I think Indoor Twilight was my favorite. It just has a really good feel. Like, it's cozy. And I love the Ewoks, and I love the little fires that are in it, and the big Death Star in the background. That one's available.
That was a fun one.
All of these are available on this YouTube channel, so you can look up. What was the Wookiee one called? Was it just called Chewbacca? May the Force be with you, Chewbacca.
Yeah.
And then Wicket, or it was called Ewok. It was just called Ewok. And then Rebel Sunset.
Yeah, I can't remember what it was called.
Indoor Twilight. Okay, so we're going to make a dark, kind of muted teal. And for that, the colors I mixed were cyan, yellow, yellow ochre, and a touch of magenta. So let's go ahead and you can mix it with whatever brush you want, or you can use your palette knife if you got one. Pull some of that off. Cyan, yellow ochre. Already these two make a nice deep green, which you could use. You could absolutely use this, but I decided apparently when I made this that I was going to take it further. Let me show you the color on my original. It's this color that you see here and kind of smeared into the little wrinkly areas. So it is a deep forest green. Some might call it teal.
I just totally
This
wanted to
appears,
go into.
it's over black, so you can't really judge the color there, but right through here you can kind of see
You
it.
said deep forest, and now I want to go into chill vibes. Or
Now on the magenta, if you're adding it to this, it's going to take this and make it very muted and go a little at a time because it can turn kind of muddy. But this is one of those cool things where adding magenta turns it sort of almost purplish. A little more cyan for me. I think I got too much yellow ochre. It's not making teal. Actually, this is pretty close. Pretty darn close to what I had on my original. Okay. Cool. All right, let's clean the brush off. It's probably got a lot of paint on it from mixing. And we're going to do a combo of the smaller brushes. I think this number 8 we could probably set aside for now, unless you want to use it. But I'll pick up the number 4. So this is about a, what would you say? What is it? 3/8? No. What would you say that is? 1/8 of an inch wide?
3/16.
3/16, yeah. And I like to use the skinny edge of the brush. The first thing I'm going to do is pretty simple. I'm just going to go along here and just outline. Let me zoom in. Just outline the bottom edge of this ear. And this is subtle, which is good. That's what we want. We're outlining with dark green instead of black to keep it subtle. You can even shade it down a little bit if you wanted to. You can shade it down in here. Like this big ear ridge is casting a shadow down in here. That's exactly what would happen. Let's go ahead and do the other one. Let's zoom out a little bit. We've been working with our canvases in portrait mode a lot lately. So right before we went live, we were like, it feels like there's not enough room on the table. So yeah, I'm using the thin edge of the brush. And then just not a lot of paint. And you just sort of shade it downward right into that darker pink we put on there. Shade it under here. Down where his ear canal would be. Nice and green. And then you might use your small round brush to outline the nose. And we can come back in with more of the skin color green if it feels like it's just still too thick of an outline and you want it less. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. Just use my number 8 with a little of... Luckily, I still have a lot of the base skin tone left. Hopefully you do too, so you're not having to remix it. When I made the original, I did have to remix it like at least 3 times. So now you can even come down and cover up the bottom middle part of the nose. So let's zoom in so we can get up close and personal with Grogu's nose. So I took a little of the green, and you can paint over this bottom edge. That's too much. I need to wipe some paint off the brush. And then bring that up a bit. So you've got like the top part of the nose is pink, shaded down into the skin color. And then you can thin these out. So then it can end up looking like the nostrils he has, which the picture I looked at, they were kind of slitty. Look at me, I've got 3 brushes in my hand.
10,000 years.
So anytime you're using the skin color green to correct anything, just go a little bit at a time on your brush. So I'm just carefully thinning out the outline by bringing that flesh color in little tiny bits. And if you need to redo the pink on the top of the nose, you can totally do that at any time. Put that one back in the water. And let's go back to the wrinkles. And one of your smaller brushes, whichever one you're working with, I think I've got the combo of the 2. I'm going to go ahead and use the thin edge of my number 4. And we're going to make this divider here. And don't make it a straight line. Just kind of make it sort of rumpled. And this actually passes through, let's have a look. It starts here and it passes through here, and each of these are slightly curved, so they don't actually line up. And if we did one solid straight line up, it would look funny. So we want it to look like they're actually individual pieces, if that makes sense. So like right here, I'll do a little curved one. Maybe right here too. So rather than being straight up, and you can even bring that down. Now I'm going to switch to my number 4, and I'm going to go over this black outline. I'm using short little choppy brush strokes with not a lot of paint on the brush. So here's the amount of paint I have. Very little. Like if I paint on my hand, not very much coming off. And I just went to dip it and just went to dip it back on the palette automatically. But no, I don't want to do that. And then we want to bring the wrinkles down in here. This area is pretty shaded. And let's bring these eyelids back. So right where the pink is, I'm going to put in the deep teal line, like so. And if you want to make it even darker, you could mix a tiny bit of black with your teal, because these others have black underneath, so they're a lot darker when we get green on all of them. But this actual eyelid, if you add a tiny bit of black to your teal, it works out really nice. Tiny bit of water. And then this is where, if you want, you can make that wing out a little bit. Might have been better for me to use a smaller brush. So right at the pink, just make them fairly even, if you can. And this you could really lightly sketch in, like it's separated there. go. So it's funny, when I was looking at the photo, this part right in between the eyes, I realized, oh my gosh, it looks like a 6-pack of abs right here. So that's sort of what I aimed for. One thing too, I want you to look at on this one.
Is that why you made me take my shirt off?
What are you talking about? This looks really pretty three-dimensional, and part of that is these highlights we put on later. So like this one's pretty flat. This one's a lot more three-dimensional. We'll get there. Trust the process. So what do I have? I have dark green, teal color. And I want to use the small brush for the abs. Very little paint on that brush. And you're just going to, let's see, let's just do like this. Little, like oval shapes almost. And I don't have a lot of paint on the brush. I'm just sort of letting it fade out. And if you get too much, go to your green and paint some green back in there. And it's not a real noticeable thing. It's just sort of there. And we need to give him his little smile lines. Littlest brush. And they're going to come out from here like so. And they're not very long. And it looks like I have room where a lot of his mouth can show, because it needs to be right about here. I could, like, if I didn't want that, like, okay, let's look at the original. He has kind of a longer space between his nose and where his mouth is, almost like it's like a little beak. I could bring this up higher on this one if I wanted to, but I think I'll go ahead and just put the mouth all the way across and see how that goes. Now it's really just pretty much a straight line. And I'm just using the dark green, and we'll come back later with some black. He's unamused. And now I want to come in with my number 8 brush. I cleaned it off. A little bit of the green flesh color, so you can see a very little paint on the brush. I'm going to work right under here, and I'm going to just sort of glaze over these so they're not so pronounced. We want them there, but we want them to look more like they're not super deep, I guess. I don't know what the right word is to use, but I just don't want him to stand out too much. He's a young one. He's a young one. He doesn't have too much of those yet. Maybe you can see on the original what I'm talking about. A lot of times what I do is I'll wipe off a lot of the paint off my brush and just sort of shade it in. So I'm using the dark green now, so that a line is not quite as visible, more like a shadow, like the skin folds are creating a shadow. I've got room. I could put a little green under here for a lower mouth, but we'll see. I might end up bringing that. I might bring this up just because I like the expression showing with just the part of the mouth. Okay, so let's have a look at this again. I did some dark green wrinkle under the eye, right here and here. Go ahead and take your brush, your little guy probably. I might add a drop of water to my paint because it is drying and it gets thicker as it dries. And we know that these little brushes, we like to have fluid paint. So this does not have to be one solid line. It can be broken up. And then he does have some little wrinkles here, like crow's feet. You can put those in if you want. Didn't really on the original, but we can do it. I have a new theory on Grogu. He's secretly a clone of Yoda done by the Camino. What's the Camino? I don't remember.
Those are the clone people
Okay.
with the long necks.
Oh, yeah. Those guys. Okay. I'm going to now continue on into the black. I did the forest green or the teal in this one wrinkle here, and I need to bring it up here.
Well, we know he was in possession by the clone people, like the cloner guy from the Empire. I guess it wasn't the Empire, but...
I'm just going to put a little shading along here. Again, it's kind of the same thing with those where it's casting a shadow more than a solid line. It just makes it look a little better. Yeah, so I don't know if I mentioned earlier, I can't remember because I've said it so many times in the last week, that we normally would do this on May the 4th, but we
are crazy overbooked this weekend.
Didn't look out like at May close enough and realized, duh, May the 4th is like a holiday now. And we accidentally booked a live in-person class, so that's what happened there. Okay, so now if you want, you can use the thin edge of your brush or your smallest brush, and the dark teal, maybe add a little black to it, or use, if you already had done that, use the darker mix. And this is just an eyelid wrinkle. So you know how our eyelids have little creases on them if you look in the mirror? We have our main eyelid crease, and then on the actual lid part, we have these little wrinkle type creases. And it can be broken up lines. Doesn't have to be a solid line. Broken up is better for this. His mouth looks weird. I think I need to try and shade underneath his mouth. Maybe that would make it look better. That's too much. Too much. That looks a little bit better. I think. What have I done? I'm just going to feather that out here. Maybe add a little more of the green. There we go. Yeah, I think the shade under there is pretty good. Just laughing at my panic mode. And then I feel like this area, I don't like this area. On this one, I have it a little more textured because he does have these vertical wrinkles that sort of fan out from the bottom of the nose. So I think what I'm going to do, I'm going to try this. I'm going to use my dark teal, but just very little, and go out from the nose and sort of shade in these little non-commit. Oh, sorry. I didn't realize I dragged that off so far. I'm going to shade in these little non-committal lines. I have just a ghost layer of paint on the brush.
Ghost layer.
And this is still too harsh, so I'm going to come back in with a little of the skin color green and just glaze over some of that. And we'll have some fun with some highlights and stuff in a bit too. Yeah, that looks a little better. These little details that are pretty easy to do, but they do make a big difference. And now I think this is dry enough. I can fix that up. Just see if I missed anywhere for dark green. I think I got it pretty good. Just looking at my original real quick.
How dare you?
Let's clean up the eyes really quick because I want them to be able to dry by the time we come back in and we can... There is actually a little bit of brown in his eye because he doesn't have solid black eyes like that one weird snail character. Maybe he doesn't even have solid black eyes. So I'm using my number 4 brush. I'm just using the thin edge as I come up along with some fresh black and clean up any areas that got funky. And here's where you can turn your canvas. Please get in the habit of doing that because a lot of times it's easier to reach certain areas if you have the canvas at a certain angle to your painting hand. That's pretty good.
Oh, Kim's going good night.
Oh, we'll see you later. Thanks for joining. Happy May the 4th tomorrow.
We'll be working.
Yep. Paul's teaching a lighthouse painting tomorrow at a local art center, so that'll be pretty fun. You haven't taught that one in ages. Think you can remember?
Yeah. You know the reason I paint the way I paint is for the in-person stuff. It's all a process, so you never have to remember. It's all just the process.
I'm thinking on his upper lip, I could shade a little lighter above there if I wanted to. It's just something to think about. So yeah, take a look at the eyes. They don't have to be identical. Mine are definitely not. One is like slightly more open than the other. That's totally fine. Totally fine. Okay. So let's wash off our number 8 brush. Oh. Cleaned it off and dried off. Greta just texted that Kohl's emailed that they hired someone else. So that's great. We just spent a bunch of money on clothes. But
more interviews to come. Maybe a really important one, too.
They had Greta scheduled for an interview at noon tomorrow. That's kind of weird to just be like, well, I don't know. Maybe that's not weird. I would always interview everyone I had signed up for interviews before I made the decision. But I'm also not a major retail store. It was Sephora inside Kohl's. Okay, so I am making now, as I was ranting, this skin color green mixed with a little magenta. I'm trying to make this color again, that sort of muted pink. And it doesn't have to be exact. And you don't need a ton of paint. In fact, I feel like I have too much on my brush, so I'm going to wipe some off. I'm going to highlight down here and along here, just sort of thin out that darker pink outline and make it look like there's more texture stuff going on in the inner ear. Like if you look at your inner ear, you've got all kinds of bumps and funky stuff. So we're going to give the illusion of that without having to paint all kinds of anatomy. Can't count how many interviews I went to and never got any call back from the school to get told I didn't get the job. You know, I always emailed people. I think maybe my first interviews, I hired everyone. I was really weird about that. I was like, oh, I like them. Oh, I like them too. I like them too. And they were just, you know, art teachers. So it wasn't like I just needed one art teacher a night. So it wasn't like I was paying multiple art teachers all at the same time. But I always, I don't understand the companies that don't let you know. And I don't understand the interviewees who just don't show up. No show, no call. I just don't get that at all. But whatever, everybody's got different things going on in their lives. I'm going to take some of this pink now and add a bit more to these areas. Like around the eyelids. This little cheeky bit here. We could come out here. Okay, he's looking really blushy, a little more than what I've got here. I mean, he's pretty blushy here too. But I will show you real quick how I will correct that. I think on the original I have a little bit darker pink but less of it. So I think I mentioned this earlier, just use a little bit of your skin tone and feather it in from the outside edges, sort of glazing over some of the more harsh parts, and just a tiny bit of paint on your brush because you don't want to cover it, you just want to tone it down. And then I can use this green flesh color, which hopefully you guys made a lot. We've been going through it, and you can use that as a highlight, like in here. Very little paint though, because you don't want it to look like this part of the ear is this color, but maybe it's just a nice highlight. Okay. We're looking good. And I'm just feel like I needed more pink somewhere, but I think I'm good. You could, you've got your pink here. If you want to make a little darker mix, I added more magenta and cyan to the skin color base. And you can shade with, okay, so that wasn't dark enough. You can shade with that color. If you want to tone it down, you could add even a little yellow ochre, but not a ton. It's going to just mute it. If it's looking too purple, it's going to make it uglier. It'll take it from purple to ugly shade. But ugly shade is awesome. I use ugly shading colors in a lot of my paintings because when you look at different images, like I do a lot of pet paint portraits, like that people will, they'll send me pictures of their pets and have me paint them. And you just look at the pictures, so you'll see all kinds of colors. I remember when I was first starting painting, I did a lot of portraits of people. And I did all their skin just one solid color. And then when I got into college and started taking painting classes, the teacher's like, really look at skin tones. There's blue, there's purple, there's all kinds of different shades. It's like, ah, eye opener. Okay, so let's mix a highlight color. And that will be what's going to help make some of this in here look more three-dimensional. So we highlight the top of the ears, we highlight these little rumply areas, the top edge of the rumply areas. You could even highlight the top of the nose and even a bit on the eyelids if you want to. I've got a little down here. It all works together. Let's use our, either your number 8 or your number 4, whichever you're more comfortable using. And we're going to take our Grogu skin color and mix some white with it. So you still want it to be the same base shade, but lighter. And this might be, that's about right. Yeah, that's perfect actually. And I've got a lot of paint on the brush from mixing it, so, and I don't want that. I just want to add highlights, not completely change the whole thing. So now I'll read up the tip of the bristles in, and I'm just going to come across, and I'm using really light kind of flicking or even curving brush strokes. This is a good spot for it too, just to make the top edge of this stand out. So think of like the sun is up here, or the moon or something, and casting a light down, a big light bulb. So I'm using very little paint on the brush. Let me zoom in. And you can see that I'm trying not to do smooth paint strokes. I'm trying to keep it choppy so it doesn't look so illustrative. So along here, now you can thin out your black, your darker outlines even more by bringing this lighter color up into them just a bit more. And here's what I'm doing. I'm sort of pushing the bristles up like that. That way I'm keeping myself from doing a smooth brush stroke. We want rough brush strokes. Think like Paul thinks. Wreck your brushes.
Do yourself a favor and do it.
I am going to post a link to our Facebook group page. If you guys haven't joined it yet, please join it. It's called the Palette Knives Out, or Palette Knives Out Artcast community page. Is that right? Or what do they search for?
Just community.
Yeah, Palette Knives Out. Is it Palette Knives Out Artcast community or Palette Knives Out? Okay. And I'm going to post a link to some really inexpensive brushes I found that I've been using on some of the recent paintings I've done for commissions, and I absolutely love them. And I'm talking like $3 a brush. And for that amount, it's they're really great. I love them. Okay. It's looking a little more 3D now. I could even go further. I could make an even lighter shade by mixing some more white in some of this. And this would be like an ultra highlight color. So wipe your brush off before you touch the canvas with it, because you'll have a lot from mixing. And this really light shade could go at the very tippy top of some of these bumps. And that's just going to add even more 3D quality to our cute little Grogu. And I had mentioned adding a highlight to the top of the nose. You could do that. Just tap it in. Give it a little tappy tap. You could even highlight your little 6-pack of weird wrinkles here. Okay, that's looking pretty good. I did mention earlier you can put a little white highlight, and you might use a smaller brush if you feel like this thin edge of this one isn't going to cut it for you. But you could put a little white highlight along here. That would be like the waterline of the eye, or close to the waterline. You could even like pick random spots to add highlights. I love finding surprise highlights. Just makes the painting really come together nice and look a little more extra with those dead eyes staring at you. So for extra credit, these little wrinkles here, you would have a highlight right along the edge of those. Look at that, how that changed that up. And what happened here? A little highlight along the top edge of these darker lines. When I do stage makeup for shows that we work, this is how I paint wrinkles on people who are cast as older people. We do the wrinkles in dark and highlight in a lighter shade. And from the audience perspective, it really looks like wrinkles. We're just doing stage makeup today on Grogu. Fixing up a couple spots I noticed. Touch-ups. Actually, I just put some paint on this cheek right here. That's another spot you could put a highlight. Basically anything that's going to bump out, or that you want to bump out. What am I doing there? Wrong spot. Here. And kind of separate the ear from the cheek too. And let me blend that out. Let me
I give you permission.
zoom out. Oh, I actually had mentioned I was going to try and put a light line along the top lip. Let's see how that works. So I'm going to turn my canvas, because I know I'll do better at this angle, and just very little paint brush along the top lip here, or the lack of lips. might work. I'm kind of excited to turn it and see. Oh, you can even put a little... Well, now I'm getting too crazy. Let's have a look. Yeah, that looks good. Such a simple, easy thing to make that look like it's got some depth and dimension. And another thing I could do, we're just learning all the close-up stuff. His little philtrum part kind of sticks out a little bit, like especially if you were to look at him from the side. So to make it look like it's sticking out and to sort of divide these little wrinkles I painted in earlier, you can paint that lighter highlight color we've been using right in here. Very little paint though, because it's really easy to go too far. There. Now, I'm going to zoom out and look at that cute mouth. Oh my gosh, it ended up looking really cute, actually. I'm very happy with that. I'm going to use my number 8 brush and highlight the top edge of the ears. So if you need to make your highlight shade again, it was white with your skin color base. I can't believe I actually still have skin color base left over. And this one, it's okay to have a good bit of paint on your brush. It's a big area to highlight. Go along the top edge. You could even highlight down here, a really thin line, right at the top ridge of this. And then you can mix even more white or even just use pure white to make the ultra highlight that I talked about that we used in here. And just put that, you know, I'm going to try just white and see how that goes. Put that just right at the very tippy top of the ear. Oh yeah, he's looking good. He's looking good. Let's work on the eyes now. We're actually pretty close to done with his, yeah, we're done with his face. We just have to add the little fuzz on the top of his head, and then we'll do the eyes. But the eyes are pretty quick and easy to do. So let's zoom in on here, and you can see he does have, it doesn't even hardly show up. He does have brown in there. Why is it not showing up on camera? No, it's really not. Okay, well, it is a really dark brown. Let's go for it. So let's grab our palette. To make dark brown out of the colors we have on here, these are the two you're going to mix together. Littlest brush. I do remember at one point the eyes looking really stupid and me softening all the brown up with solid black. So that's I probably in my head thought I had a lot more brown than I actually do. There we go. Now if you want to warm it up even more, you could add a tiny bit of magenta. But it's not the most beautiful shade of brown. You just want a really dark brown. You can add a drop of water in there, swirl that around just so you have a little more fluid paint. And then wipe your brush off on your towel. And redip the tip of the bristles in the paint color. And let's see how this goes. Let's just brush a little brown. See, that's not dark enough. Well, maybe it is. It's going to dry a little darker. So he has really big black pupils. Just bring this all the way to the corners. It's there. You see it? It's just really dark. So keep it that way. Because when you look at him on the show and in pictures, it just looks like he has two giant black eyes. And I'm not going to do any more to the actual color of his eye. We're just going to put highlights in. Now I need to grab a beverage. I made him all starry-eyed. But first, before I decided to do that, that was a last-minute change. I have a blue, light blue highlight. Here, 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 and here. And then we come in with the white. So let's go with the blue first. Okay, so take your littlest brush. In our palette, we have cyan and white. That's what we want to mix together. You don't need much at all. And I think I toned this down maybe. What would you tone this down with, Paul? Maybe a little yellow ochre?
If you want to make it green.
I don't want it to be green, but I want it to be toned down a bit.
A little yellow ochre probably is pretty close.
I need a tiny bit more white. Okay, pull and twist your brush just to knock off any excess paint pigment. It's okay if this is leaning on green. His skin is green. It's not going to be a problem. So then what I did is I don't have a lot of paint on the brush. In fact, I wipe it off and just brush in a little, I don't even know what shape this is, caterpillar. And then you want to do that on the same, basically the highlights need to be facing the same side. Just dabbing that brush around. So you have this sort of fuzzy little blue splotch. And then using the lightest pressure you can possibly manage and the smallest amount of paint on the tip of the bristles, come in down here and just curve with the eyelid. You're in the actual eye though, you're not touching the eyelid, you're above it on both sides. And this is how, you can even add a drop of water to your paint if it's not really fluid enough for this. This is how we make the eye look glassy and round. And if you get too much, then use black and thin it out. Now, I'm going to wash the brush, and I'm going to dip the tip of the bristles in white. And this, again, this is a little splotch too. It's not like a perfect dot. I didn't want it to look super illustraty. So right in the, kind of the center of the blue, you're going to dab this around into a little roundish splotch. And there you go. There is the eyes. You can completely leave them like this if you don't want to do the stars. But I'll show you how to do the stars later. Let's do the fuzz on the top of the head. Very light, thin, and wispy, like think baby fuzz. And you'll want to use your smallest brush for that. And obviously white. Let's zoom out a little. So the white has gotten a little thick as it's sat here. But I'm going to stir water into it. Now I know your water's kind of toned. Don't worry about it. It shouldn't affect anything. It's still going to look white when you brush it on the canvas. So I'm mixing a good bit of water with some of the white paint. And you'll want to like pull and twist your brush. Maybe even just wipe it off and redip the tip of the bristles. That might be the better way to do it. And start like in here, just for practice. Or even start off over here, someplace where you can paint black over it. Maybe that's the best way. Start it off like at the top of the head. And I am hardly using any pressure at all. In fact, sometimes I'm not even getting anything on the canvas because I'm trying really hard to just use the lightest pressure possible. Having the water mixed in with your paint, make sure you dab your brush off first. That's going to help a lot and allow you to do these wispy little brush strokes without adding too much paint on the canvas. Did we decide what the creature's name was?
No, I don't think it's known.
The species?
Mm-mm.
Do you remember like when Grogu first appeared, and everybody was like, meltdown!
It's a baby Yoda.
It's a baby. I remember thinking it was Yoda, but maybe my timeline would have been totally off.
Way off.
Yeah, because
This is after
it got
Yoda
a
died.
little confusing for a while. Yeah, you're right. You're right. Because, like, what's his name was all old.
Boba Fett.
Yeah,
And Luke.
you're right. Cute. He's looking fuzzy. You can add a lot or a little. You can look at pictures for reference. I don't know if there's any in the ears, but that would be fun. That's about all I'm going to do. His little jacket's super easy. His little scarf. I kept it simple. I could have like spent a lot more time on it, but I wanted to spend all the time on the face. And what time is it? 7:06. Okay, so we should probably be done by 7:30. I would think. I actually really like the face on this one a lot. Let's mix a sand color. So it's going to be a brownish tan. Let me move little Grogu out of the way. So we want white, black, and yellow ochre, or raw sienna, whichever you're using. The black is what's going to turn it more brown. So add just a little at a time. Let me check my notes. Okay. Yeah, just gradually add your black in. It's kind of a grayish brown, if I'm being honest. It's kind of like what the sand people wear, that color.
Burlap.
It's burlap, yeah. And I saw in different paintings, people have treated this in different ways. So it does have like, it's one of those textures where it looks like it could be soft, but it also looks like it could be scratchy, like kind of wool.
Burlap.
And so, yeah, what I've seen people do in paintings of Grogu is use like a round brush. I don't have a round brush really except for that tiny one, so I'll use my number 8. And they've done this sort of thing. And just dabbed it all over, and then maybe pick some darker tones in there too, just to, and then like maybe switch to some lighter tones. That's what I saw. You can totally do that if you like the idea of that. I just kept mine kind of more of a smoothed out wrap. So I'm going to just go along with, you can use any brush that feels comfortable. I'm playing dangerously here along the face. Just getting the larger chunks, and then I'll switch to a smaller brush to get around there. Oh, he's so cute. I'm going to leave just a little skinny line of black here so I know where that fold goes. And now I'll switch to my number 8 brush. And really go up and get right along the face. Make sure you cover up your green outlines from your original start. Let's leave a little black line here so I know that this is the upper part and that's kind of getting into the shoulder. I had more shoulder showing on the original one, but this one just aligned itself different. He's wearing a Snuggie.
He was kind of.
A reflection of Luke doing some lightsaber would be cool to see in Grogu's eyes. Yeah.
Go for it,
seems
Daniel.
Like it would take a while.
Do it.
We triple dog dare ya, Daniel. Okay, so this is just blank right now with no shading or anything fun. It's just very, very out of place with everything else that we've done. But we're going to change that up. So along the face, I like to put a darker color. And on the outside edges, and then I put like a lighter color. And again, I could have spent a lot more time on this. It is so incredibly simple. But I was feeling like this could go on forever. So I'm going to mix more black into the corner of this. We want it pretty dark. And we don't want a lot of paint on the brush, so either swipe it off on your palette. This is what I do. That's why my palette ends up looking like that. And go along the edge of the face. And I'm just sort of shading it down. I'm not trying to do an outline. I'm trying to make it look like there's a darker color here without outlining it. So I'll just sort of, since everything's really wet, they can just sort of blend together. It's almost too wet. You can almost wait a few. We might do that. Let's go ahead right here. There'd be a natural crease because of the way this is bumped out here. Down here is going to be in shadow. Along here, shade. Definitely is going to work better when this is dried a little, so we might end up working on the stars for a bit. But let's, well, we got this brown shade. Let's go ahead and get some of it put on here. And I want to go along the face here. This ear would cast a little shadow. This side is dried a little more, so it's doing what I want it to do. So this ear is going to cast a shadow too. Okay, we're going to leave this for a bit and come back. But it looks like he's got a blanket wrapped around him, or a snuggie. Let's do some stars, and we'll come back and finish this up. Stars. I did lots of little single dots, and then a few more fun ones, and then I have them in white mixed with yellow, and even a few orange, kind of peach colored ones in there, just to make it so it's not all just white stars. Maybe some of these are planets. There's Jupiter, or one of the Alderaan, whatever, one of those Star Wars planets. Whichever one didn't get blown up.
Tatooine. Coruscant.
Which is the one that got blown up in New Hope?
Alderaan.
Okay, so that's not Alderaan. We're going to use our littlest brush for all of the stars, and those of you guys who have painted with us before know that using the handle end of the brush is the perfect way to do little dots.
Maybe it's Mandalore.
There you go. I thought Mandalore was a really cool planet. It was like kind of desolate and had those weird creatures under the water.
The mythosaurs.
Yeah. The thing that's on your sweater.
Yeah.
So I'll dip my handle of my brush in the white. It's kind of got a skin on top just from sitting here and drying. And so you can dab it off a few times. I dabbed it off too much on the palette. And then just start stamping stars. I guess I don't really need to dab it on the palette. I think I've got a buildup of paint. on the end of this brush handle. But the cool thing is as you guys know who've done this before, as your handle runs out of paint, the stars get smaller and smaller, so it is randomizing the size for you. Is he just floating in space?
Totally.
Floating into space.
We all
Do
float.
you realize? The flaming lips. Do you realize? That's the name of it. Do you realize? Oh, there's a big blob. So that one will probably become a. Actually, it doesn't look too bad from the camera. It's just from the side. It's got a. Looks like a chocolate chip shape. So I'm just gonna feed off of that. If that happens, it's like perfect. It's like the mother star, and you're just feeding off of it for as long as you can. Okay, so I've got a lot of white ones. Let's do some yellows. So you can use the plain right out of the tube yellow right here if you want. Oh, that's got a real skin on top. It's like frosting. Okay, and you can use that one, and that adds a nice warm shade of star. And then we'll do some where the yellow is mixed with white. So on our nighttime walks with our dogs, we get a lot of clear nights here and there, and it is fun to see that the stars have a lot of color, and especially the one called Betelgeuse, which is supposedly supernovaing. So it's red. You can see the Orion constellation, and there in the corner is Betelgeuse, and it's very red. And then Sirius is another one that's flashing in all kinds of colors. My son and I, we call it the disco star because it's like, it looks like party lights, like a disco ball or something. So we always say they're partying on Sirius. Seriously. Okay, let's mix some white and yellow together. We're gonna get kind of a lemon curd color, lemon yogurt color, lemon something yummy. So scrape off some white. Find a clean spot on your palette. Your palette is probably cleaner than mine because I swear I'm the messiest palette person. Your palette's kind of messy tonight, too.
It is.
Paul finally is subscribed to Messy Palette City.
Sometimes it's necessary.
Okay, so for these stars that look more like, they look more like the star from the Bible. I just remember the star that the wise men followed, like in illustrations. They always look like that. So to do those, I just put my arm in Grogu's sweater. Just do a plus sign. Keep your pressure really light, very little paint on your brush. In fact, you might pull and twist like I'm doing right now, then redip the tip of the bristles. Sorry, I should have told you that before you started. And then you can just kind of do a diamond shape in the middle and fill it all in and just sort of curve the parts out that need to be curved out. These can be really easy for people, but I've also seen them be very difficult. So you might practice a few on a piece of paper or something. Very light pressure is key. Because if you push really hard, you're going to get a big, bold, not so pretty line. And like, I had to make this one longer because I got a not so pretty line. And that's okay. Then you kind of end up with a different looking one. And you can play around with maybe mixing more yellow with part of your white yellow mixture. Mix some water in, make it easier to draw. You can go right through a star if needed, if you like really wanted that certain space. Everything very light pressure. I'm just going to repeat myself repeatedly. So you can switch to white if you want. Maybe this one I'll put it at an angle. So instead of a plus, I'm doing an X. And then you just do the, let me zoom in. That probably would help.
Yeah.
So I did the sort of X or plus shape, and then I do a little diamond shape in the middle. And then I fill that in. And you could leave it like that. That looks pretty nice too, but you could also make it a little more continuous, like these sort of curve together. Eliminate any really sharp corners. Let's do one more. Plus light pressure, not a lot of paint. Diamond shape, a little small diamond right in the middle, or kite shape, whatever helps you visualize it. Fill that in, and then just sort of curve everything together. And then if you want to do some orange stars, they didn't really show up super great on my original, so I could make a more orange. I've got my little yellow mixed with white here. I'll add some magenta to that. You could add white. You can make it peach if you want it more subtle. Add a drop of water. Everything is getting thick from sitting here. And you can do some bigger dots. So you can just use the brush end instead of the handle end and do some bigger dots. You can do this in any color. And you can flip it around and use the handle and do some little guys. But basically that's it for the stars. You can paint planets. You don't even have to paint planets that you know, because it's Star Wars. He could be anywhere. He could have hyper sped out somewhere. Don't like that one. He just needs a second coat. But you know what? I mixed all my orange or yellow into orange, so it's going to be orange. And I just need to go a little slower and use lighter pressure because I was kind of rushing it. That's better. Okay, now we can go back to this and finish this up. Actually, first, if you want to put stars in Grogu's eyes, we want to keep them really tiny. So they're a lot smaller than the stars in the sky, and they're closer together. Partly I didn't want to take away from the nice highlight I've got going on there. So what I did is I dipped the handle into the white, and I stamped it a whole bunch of times on my palette, and then I come in and look how tiny they are. And you can do as many or as little as you want. You can leave them off completely. It's kind of a fun feature to add. I mean, it is called Star Wars, so put as many stars as you want all over the place. And let's fix up his bathrobe, his Snuggie. Okay, so I'm going to use my number 8 brush, and what I'm going to do now is just intensify the shadows and add highlights. So we have our color down here. It was yellow ochre, raw sienna, a little white, and some black. So we want to mix half of it into a dark brown. Save half of it as the normal color, mix half of it into a dark brown by adding much more black. Okay, Daniel, tell me what things you see on my palette. You're always finding the Rorschach test shapes. There's got to be something Star Wars on there, right?
I had Australia on my palette earlier.
So I cleaned off my brush. You can see my paint rag is really been used a lot because I do a lot of the paint mixing and then cleaning my brush off before touching the canvas with it. And I have a deeper shade, and I can tell already I need it to be even deeper. So I might just pull that aside and mix more black with half of it. So it's almost solidly black. Let's use the thin edge and make some of these creases a little more defined. You can use a smaller brush if you want thinner lines. I'm just using kind of less pressure, but it is harder to get the really thin lines with a bigger brush. Already looks better, even though I didn't really do much. And I'm going to come along the face, and this is where I just scribble my brush across, let it run out of paint. I want it to run out of paint, so I'm going to go all the way across and down. And then I want to eliminate the outline. So to do that, you can clean your brush off, and you can just sort of shade down, or you can wipe your brush off. I said clean it up, but just wipe it off. And you can go back to this kind of sand base color and sort of just glaze that in. This is what you would be, this is like a la prima painting, wet on wet. So when you're painting with oils, this is what this feels like. The blending is so easy by comparison to acrylics. So a lot of times I love doing that, going back and forth between the dark color and the lighter color and blending the wet paint with the wet paint. We're almost done. What time is it? Oh yeah, we should end right about 7:30, like I said. Pretty close. So this little fold here is technically going to cast a little shadow below it, but I need to soften that up. So I'm using the base lighter color. Painting fabrics it's fun once you get comfortable with it. But getting comfortable with it is what's hard. It's definitely something to practice, because paintings of fabric with folds and drapes and stuff are so amazing when people really take their time with it. This is just basic by comparison. Use this darker color again and go along this side. This one might be a little more in shadow because we've got this one bumping out. And again, like I've mentioned a few times throughout the video, blend the wet paint with the wet paint. So go back to the lighter shade while the dark shade is still there. It doesn't even have to be the exact same color. Like obviously I've got a slightly different color, but I like that. I want it to be multi-toned. So this one's a little more brown. Whoa, that's a light line. We'll just blend that out.
I heard the panic in your voice.
We'll just blend that out. And then, let's see. I feel like I could put, kind of like we did with the wrinkles on the face, you can put a lighter line along the dark line. Remember when I was talking about how we stage paint wrinkles on people for stage makeup? Got your dark line and then your highlight. I'm just playing around with something. I wanted a slightly sharper fold right here. So I'm just going to blend the edge a little. Don't like that. Okay. I need to blend that out a little more. And you could add lighter highlights throughout this if you want. Let's look at the original. It's got quite a bit of light highlights. I did this wrap thing on the original so fast that I really could have taken more time with it. So let's see what it would look like with some highlights, just because we've got a little time, we can. And there's something in art called backlighting, which is fun to play with in this sort of situation, as long as you go kind of light and easy on it. So I would take, let's maybe use a smaller brush, like my little guy here, and the lighter shade I was just using. And you can do a little light highlight along the edges of the cloak, edges that meet outer space. And that's backlighting. It just comes from who knows where, but it's a nice way to keep these sides from disappearing into the black space. There, now he stands out. And there's probably so much more I could do with this cape thing, Snuggie. But that would be a much longer video, so I'm going to just finish it up. I somehow got some yellow there. And I need to sign it. Are you ready to show yours in a minute, Paul?
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm going to sign my painting. This one I actually like better than the original, which is really unusual because when I'm teaching it, there's usually like, it's different than painting on my own because I'm actually leading people through it and I have to really voice what I'm doing. So sometimes the painting I do doesn't come out quite as good. And I don't know. I mean, I like them both a lot, but I think some of the extra stuff I did with the highlighting in here is really nice. I feel like I could soften this line a little bit while I've got the paint wet on my palette, so I don't have to remix it. I might do that really quick and show you what I would do. So I'm using my number 8 brush, the green color, and I'm wiping most of it off. In fact, I need even more wiped off. And I'm just going to sort of haze over the darker outline. So it's still there, but it's not such a harsh line. So I still want it to look like, yeah, that part bumps out. He's got funky stuff going on there. I could also accomplish that by just putting a highlight along the edges here. I don't know if that really did much. Probably not. But let's go ahead and get a signature. What color do I want to use? Maybe I'll use the light blue, so I only use that in his eyes. So when you are signing your painting, use a little brush, obviously, but mix some water with it. And you don't want a lot of paint on the brush. I've got it down to where it's just my initials. And I'm gonna set my palette aside. Look at that. That's a work of art. Orange looks like a monster, and for a while the white looked like a stormtrooper. Well, I meant to do that. The new painting is darker. Yeah, you're right. It's a little bit darker than the original. Do you mean dark? Wait a minute. Do you mean darker as in color or darker as in like darker? He's got a bigger head. Bigger head, which meant I had to reduce the ear size a little bit. But overall, I'm very, very happy with it. So let's see Paul's. Oh, got a splash of water in here. Oh my gosh, he's so cute. I like this. Is this the planet blowing up?
I don't know what it is.
It's Beetlejuice supernova-ing. Now, is this anything in particular?
What?
Is this the
Yeah, that's the
Death
ball.
Star? Oh, the ball. Okay. Here, let's tilt it because it's got funky glare. So you can see it's shaded. Yeah, and actually when you tilt it, you see the true color of the painting, really. Because when it's down like this, that glare from one of those lights over there is...
I think it's the big one.
Mm-hmm. Very nice. Very nice. Looks like he's wearing a tie. He's going to a job interview at Sephora.
I actually looked at a picture
He's
of his
selling
robe,
wrinkle
and that's
cream.
what it looks like.
Oh.
See?
This one I would love to just take a lot of extra time and shade and highlight. Oh yeah. So so actually show that picture so people know what that is.
I was gonna see if there's a different one. Like, see that one?
Yeah. Here, show everybody. He's eating an ice cream cone. But look at the pink around his eyes. See? They're cute. Looks like a fun painting. Yes, it is. Pulse looks like a gremlin and Yoda had a baby.
There's some truth to that. It does kind of look that way. I really embrace the avocado.
Actually, it kind of looks like Gizmo from the Gremlins.
I think it's the eye shape.
And the green.
Yeah.
And actually the ears.
Yeah, the ears I never felt comfortable with.
Huh.
Don't know why.
Huh.
Let's bring it back.
Bring it back.
Wait, let me turn my hat around. There we go. We're back.
We're back.
See, there's the
Oh, adjusting for me. I guess this in a
my
Oh, yeah.
mythosaur.
The ears totally are gremlin-esque. Yes, they are.
Yeah,
That was fun.
that was fun.
Actually, I like the way you did Paul's fuzz on the top of the head is we need to there we go. Let it focus.
It's not
like
on
spiked
autofocus,
straight
so-
up. And you have a lot of more divided bumps on the top of his head, which he actually really has.
He looks
More like-
angry
Angry
instead of
Grogu.
concerned. This is more later episodes Grogu when Mando's getting attacked and he's like,
He's taking care of business.
no.
Well, thank you guys for joining us. It was fun. I actually was super excited driving in to teach this one. A little nervous because there's a lot of shading involved, but honestly, very, very fun painting to do.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
And May the 4th is so fun. We love it. We wish it was May the 4th today, but we'll just go with the 3rd because May the 4th we're teaching a lighthouse. You could turn it into something Star Wars.
I can turn it into Darth Vader's palace on Mustafar.
Okay, there we go. There we go. So you guys take care. We will be posting when we're going to air the next videos that we do. I can't believe it's already May. It's insane. The time is flying by. We're going to be right into summer. We always love suggestions. Please join our Facebook group. It's Palette Knives Out Community. You'll have to
Let me
look
just look it up. Just look for Palette Knives
Palette
Out.
Knives Out Community. And it's one you have to ask permission to join. And I don't know if it has you answer questions. Most people don't answer.
I can't. It's called the Palette Knives Out Artcast Community page.
That's a long sentence. But
Yep.
that is where we are. And that's where we love taking painting suggestions. That's where you'll see other students posting their paintings. And that's where you'll see Paul and I will post a picture of what we did tonight. Like, subscribe, follow, all of that good stuff. And we will see you when we see you.
And I'm still painting, sorry.
It's never done. It's just
It's
abandoned.
never done. Where'd the mouse go?
I've got it.
Oh,
All right. We'll see you guys later.
bye everybody.
Bye. End stream. End.